Today we're announcing criminal charges in a wide-ranging public corruption scheme that was built around the backs of our kids, their parents, our teachers, and the public. Over time, this criminal enterprise funneled millions of taxpayer dollars into private bank accounts of the defendants. For more than a year, our team of investigators and prosecutors from San Diego District Attorney's Office followed this very complex trail. They followed this trail and they discovered a widespread theft that extended across the state. As a result, today we're announcing criminal charges against 11 defendants in this massive charter school scheme that ripped off our state for over $50 million. Because of our investigation, a grand jury indicted the defendants on May 17, the majority of whom will be arraigned today at 1:30 in the San Diego Superior Court. We thank the grand jury for their weeks of work and effort on this case. Charges include conspiracy, misappropriation of public funds, paying for student information, and conflict of interest. The ringleaders are an Australian national, Sean McManus, and his Long Beach partner, Jason Schrock. The two men sought out small school districts with limited experience in oversight. They specifically sought out these small school districts to perpetrate their fraud. They got the districts to authorize online charter schools, virtual charter schools, which allowed the districts to earn additional funds in the form of oversight fees. McManus and Schrock directed co-defendants and their employees to open 19 charter schools in San Diego County and across California. Then they used students who were enrolled in sports programs and other schools to claim public funds and divert millions from the state into their own pockets. McManus and Schrock charged for services that were never provided. They misled the state into believing public dollars were being spent on education when in reality they used the money for themselves. The co-defendants who held various positions at the charter schools did not disclose their relationship with the ringleaders when launching their schools. Instead, they falsely claimed to be in charge of those schools. The co-defendants knowingly accepted payments from charter school funds instead of their employer, the companies that McManus and Schrock operated. In addition to creating charter schools, McManus and Schrock didn't stop there. They coordinated a statewide effort to pay athletic organizations for student information, basically buying student information, including reports from the schools and information about the students in order to enroll those students in the various charter schools and receive additional summer school funding. A3 charter schools paid pre-existing youth programs as little as $25 per person, per student, for enrollment documentation that they can then get thousands of dollars for each student registering them for this virtual charter school. During the summer, students did not have contact with A charter school teachers, but McManus and Schrock still collected state funding. In many instances, McManus would direct co-defendants or their employees to backdate student enrollment information to allow for additional public funding. They also collected state funding by dual enrolling students from private schools into their charter schools. To entice private schools to provide their student enrollment information, McManus and Schrock paid the schools a fraction of average daily attendance funding available from the state, pocketing the difference, which was anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per child. Even though the defendants were collecting thousands of dollars for dual enrolling the students in their charter schools, The educational services were provided only by the private schools. The defendants stole from the California educational system to get rich off our tax dollars. These are dollars intended for public school education, desperately needed funds while our teachers scramble to get paper and supplies, and while parents scramble to be sure that they have the right ratio of teachers to students in our schools, and while kids with learning disabilities, parents fighting for them to get the right attention, $50 million is being taken by this criminal conspiracy. McManus and Schrock spent the cash they were bringing in by investing in startup companies and real estate for themselves, and even wired funds directly to themselves or family members, including to a foreign country, Australia. Although the ringleaders received the greatest financial benefit for the majority of the misappropriation, they did not work alone. One co-defendant created a company in someone else's name to exclusively provide back office services for A3 charter schools in order to hide his association with McManus and Schrock. Another defendant, the superintendent of the Dehesa Elementary School District, is charged with overbilling charter school for oversight fees. The law allows oversight agencies to charge only for the actual cost for oversight, but she billed the charter schools more than $2 million in fees during one school year for more than actual costs incurred by the district and more than the entire budget of that district's payroll. The Dehesa School District, which has less than 150 full-time students, collected oversight fees for nearly 20,000 students last school year. Many of these kids were online summer school students enrolled in pre-existing programs who received no additional services. McManus, charged with 64 counts and is facing somewhere between a range of 2 to 40 years in state prison if convicted. Each count of conspiracy carries approximately 2 to 4 years in prison. Schrock is charged with 62 counts with the same range of sentencing. The other co-defendants face a range of charges and sentences of anywhere from 4 to 11 years in prison. The grand jury spent 6 weeks hearing testimony from more than 70 witnesses, including employees of charter schools, various school districts, and county and state level employees. I am very proud of our team and the huge amount of work that they've put into this investigation. You may not know that public corruption cases are investigated internally within the district attorney's office. So police officers work alongside prosecutors, intelligence analysts, paralegals, and an entire team to actually put the case together from scratch over the last year. And they followed this trail that began with conspiracy in San Diego, but spread across the state. I want to thank the team leader of our public corruption unit, Leon Shore, who put heart and soul into this case. He's here with me today. And Attorney Kevin Fannin and District Attorney Investigators Dan Holmes and David Iorillo. And I also want to thank the Chief of the Division, Fiona Dunleavy, and Assistant Chief David Grappelon. This is just some of the people that have invested the last year to uncover this mass corruption. The reason this case is really important to our kids and to our community isn't only because of the corruption that was uncovered in this case, which has cost us over $50 million, but it's because these same fraudulent charter schools and their managers are set to receive in contracts another 200 million in the upcoming years, but for being stopped by this action and by having all of the school districts alerted to this action. This would have been a continuing fraud that would have continued to empty the pocketbooks of our state education system that is struggling to meet the needs of our kids.